We're going to look at Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. So Alexander wakes up and he just has this negative frame of mind all day. So let's look at the story. He says, I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard. And by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink where the water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box, but in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. In the carpool, Mrs. Gibson let Becky have the seat by the window. Audrey and Elliot got seats by the window, too. I said I was being scrunched. I said I was being smushed. I said if I don't get a seat by the window, I am going to be car sick. No one even answered. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of the sailboat better than my picture of the invisible castle. At singing time, she said I sang too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. Who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Note, some of these things in here are things that the character doesn't like. You'll see more of those later in the book. But some of these things are just about the character's opinion, just about the way that he's looking at life through these negative colored glasses. That's not really a color. All right. I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said Philip Parker was his best friend and Albert Moyo was his next best friend and I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls off and the cone part lands in Australia. There were 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother got him a piece of jelly roll that had little coconut sprinkles on the top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That's what it was, because after school, my mom took us all to the dentist, and Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were waiting for my mom to go get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy, and when I started crying because of the mud, Nick said I was a crybaby, and while I was punching Nick for saying crybaby, my mom came back with a car and scolded me for being muddy and fighting. Having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, I told everybody. No one even answered. So here you have an escalation. So the character has made some situations worse by comparing himself to others at lunch. And then he got a cavity, so he's made some bad choices. Also, earlier in the book, he tried to get attention erroneously by calling out how scrunched he was in the car. And then after he got into a big fight with his brothers, his mom scolded him. While the author's trying to point out some typical things that happen to kids when they have a bad day, like getting blamed for the fight when you didn't start it, note that these are all things you can use in your novel, all right? Sometimes you're going to use situations to put your characters in. Sometimes you're going to use their personal reactions to things or their personal preferences. Use their attitude, right? And then you can change that attitude later in your novel. So here he gets upset because the shoe man didn't have the shoes that he wanted in his size, but his brothers got shoes that they wanted. And then they went to visit his dad, his elbow knocked down the books. He picked up the phone. He may have called Australia. His dad is very frustrated with him. And he is the youngest. So think about age and position and family relations when you're writing your books. And then at dinner there were lima beans, and he hates lima beans, and there was kissing on TV, and he hates kissing on TV. Here's that list of things that maybe you decided your character doesn't like. The bath was too hot, he got soap in his eyes, his marble went down the drain, and he had to wear his railroad train pajamas. And he hates his railroad train pajamas. So this is a simple thing to do, just building up all of that tension, building up all that anger. Eventually, something's going to snap, right? Then he went to bed, and Nick took back the pillow he said he could keep, and the Mickey Mouse nightlight went out. He bit his tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony, not me. It's been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Mom says some days are like that, even in Australia. Now, at the end of this book, the author doesn't suddenly make everything all right. You know, at the end of the book, he goes to sleep, because sometimes you just have to let your characters go to sleep, process what's going on, wake up the next day, have an epiphany, and change, right? So a lot of good tips, a lot of good thoughts in Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day for your novels, right? They've made a movie out of this. You can watch it. I've watched it with my students. But yeah, plenty of things to think about, especially, if you're writing your nano novel, right? Some extra things. Put some more problems in there. Put some hurdles in there. Think about what they don't like. All right. See you on my next tips.